Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Joy Warland, and I'm the consultant for small and rural libraries and continuing education at the Vermont Department of Libraries. Thank you for coming to this presentation this morning. We have a guest, Carmina Garciadealba from Vermont 211, to talk to us about librarians sharing 211 resources with their patrons and other community members. So thank you, Carmina, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to give this presentation. First and foremost, I just want to thank all of you for the work that you do. I think it's really, really important. Libraries are near and dear to my heart, and so this is, one of those groups that I really love working with. A big part of my role as an outreach specialist is to help the helpers. And so librarians are helpers. All of you are working with your patrons, and although that looks a little different because of COVID times, we still want to make sure that we can equip you for the work that you're doing, whether it's virtually, whether it's in packets that people are picking up, or however you are able to safely connect with people at this time. So Vermont 211 is a major resource, and it's available statewide. And so it's my hope today to give you some more information about Vermont 211, how you can utilize us as a resource, and also to share with your patrons. As Joy said, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask those in the chat as we're going along. I do not mind people interrupting as we go through. And then we will have some time at the end to do a Q&A. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my journey with Vermont 211, and then we will talk about the 3 ways that you can get connected with Vermont 211. So as Joy said, my name is Carmina, and I'm an outreach specialist with Vermont 211. I was covering Orange, Windsor, and Windham counties, so southeast Vermont. And I am now covering all of the counties on the eastern part of the state. So if you are from any of those counties on the eastern part, I would be your go-to person if you have questions. And at the end of the presentation or in a follow-up email, we'll include all of the other outreach specialists or point persons for the different designated parts of the state on the western half. So don't worry about that. I have worked in health and human services for about 15 years in different capacities. As I was saying at the beginning of the call, I also work for DCF Family Services, and I was a social worker, and I was handing out Vermont 211 cards to folks, but I really didn't know what I was handing them. Then I started working for Vermont 211 and realized that they are a huge asset and resource, and that I could have been utilizing them much more with the work I was doing with children and families. So again, it's my hope today that I can help you understand how you can utilize us and best support the children, families, and individuals in your community and that you work with. So the first main way that people know how to get connected is by calling us. So we are part of an N11 system. So similar to 911 or 411, we are 211, and folks can dial that number 24/7 and get connected with a live person. There is a 211 in every single state, and they are connected to a United Way. So in Vermont, Vermont 211 is a program of the United Ways of Vermont. We are based out of Essex, but obviously we do have outreach specialists throughout the state, and there are also other United Ways throughout the state. If folks are calling 211 and they're calling from a cell phone or they're near a border town, they may get a 211 in another state. That does happen. One of the questions that people ask are, can that 211 patch me over to the 211 that I'm looking for? And the answer is no. But they should be giving the 10-digit number so that folks can find the 211 in the state that they're looking for resources in. And we'll get into that a little bit more once we go on the website, and I'll show a little blurb about that. The other way that folks can get connected is by texting. So our texting is not 24/7 like our calling. Our texting is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and folks would just text their zip code to 898-211. So as long as they are texting a Vermont zip code, then they should be getting a hold of our contact center staff in Vermont 211. Important to know. So the third way that people can get connected is on our website. So I am going to share my screen and spend some time on that. And hopefully I can successfully do that. Okay. Joy, if you could just unmute momentarily and let me know if you can see the Vermont 211 website.
Yes.
Okay, great. As soon as I start sharing my screen, I can't see anyone, so it's hard to know, and most folks have their cameras off, so great. So we are on the Vermont 211 website. It's Vermont spelled out 211.org, and we're going to be spending most of our time on the home page. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a 211 in every state, and sometimes folks end up getting another state. We also are having some cell phone difficulties. So some folks have been reporting that they aren't able to get a hold of 211. And so we have this little blurb here at the top if that's happening. Just make sure that folks are turning off their Wi-Fi and they can try and dial again. It is a national issue and it's being addressed, but it's just something for all of you to be aware of if you have someone saying, oh, well, I've tried calling them over and over and I can't get through. The other option is we do have two 10-digit numbers. So I'll read those out, but you can also find them here on our homepage. So it's 802-652-4636 or 866-652-4636. What we typically do on our homepage is we have pertinent information right here in the center. So we've had this little blurb and notification for quite some time, just because we really want to make sure that all folks are getting connected and that if they have any challenges, they know how to try to overcome those. We also added information right here on the COVID-19 vaccine. We have been taking general calls related to COVID, and so we anticipated that our call volume would go up once folks were trying to register for the vaccine or wanted more information. We are not registering folks for that, so we do have links to all of that information right here. Next, I want to go over to the right side of our homepage, and the first part that I want to go over is our COVID support line. So when folks dial 211, as I mentioned, they will get connected with a live person. It is free and anonymous. Our contact center specialist will be asking a couple of contact marker questions. So they might ask age, male or female, if the person is a veteran, because that opens up services, and then also whether or not the caller has children, because that can open up services to our Help Me Grow program, which I will also talk about later in this presentation. So there will be a couple of questions, even though it's anonymous. I also encourage anyone that if you haven't called 211, if you haven't used our texting, but you have the capacity to just try that out. Whether you have a question related to Health and Human Services or you just want to ask a practice question, I think that that is really, really helpful. So then you can share about what that experience will be like. As I said, it is 24/7 and it's getting people connected to Health and Human Service resources, which is quite broad. So that's calling 211. But we also have option 2, which is to talk with one of our COVID support counselors. So I'm just going to click on this so folks can view that. The COVID support counselors are available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They have on their website vaccine info, COVID-19 info, and national COVID-19 info. And they also are a listening ear for anyone who is just really struggling through this time with the pandemic. They can be a listening ear. They can connect folks to workshops for health and wellness and provide them information on additional resources. They also have information for the crisis text line. So within the US, you would just text VT to 741-741. So it's a wonderful resource that we have. Again, you would dial 211 and select option 2. And if and when you have time and want to explore this website, you can easily find it on our homepage to the right, that first tab. All right, so we're going to go back. We really pride ourselves in being a one-stop shop for Vermonters to get connected to those health and human service resources. And so we try to have those on our homepage as well, if that's the way that folks want to search for them. So under the COVID-19 support tab, we have another tab for seasonal resources. So this could be for fuel, heating assistance, flu vaccines, things that are pertinent to that season. We did have information around holiday resources, although I believe most of those holiday resources have passed. And then we are getting a lot of calls around tax prep. And I'll share some of the themes that we're seeing for calls later on in the presentation. Okay. Underneath seasonal resources, we also have a link to the Vermont Department of Health. We added that pretty quickly in 2020 once the pandemic began, since folks had a lot of questions and we were making quite a few referrals to the Department of Health. We added a tab for the Everyone Eats programs so that people can easily find where those are available. And similarly to the Farmers to Families program as well, so that folks could have a one-stop shop for registering for that. We did see an increase in folks looking for food resources, so it was really important to have that right here and have it easily accessible. Okay, now we're going to go over to the left side of our home page. And the first thing that I want to point out before we go into these tabs is our translation station. So when folks are calling 211, or if you're going on our website, you do have the option of translation services. And I highlight that because this is something that a lot of individuals aren't aware of. And we do have folks in our state where English isn't their primary or first language. So if folks are calling 211, they just need to let the contact specialist know that they need a translator and let them know the language or dialect. If you're on our website looking for that information, we have this nice tab right over here. It's a drop down, and you'll see that most everything on our website is a drop down. And these are all of the languages that are available. So as you can see, it's quite extensive. It will change the entire page into that language. I do caution folks that if you want to see what that looks like, or you're playing around with it on your own time, to try to make sure that you pick a language, an alternative language that you're a little familiar with. One time I was giving a presentation and I clicked at random, and then I couldn't find English in the queue. So if that happens, though, I've learned that you just have to X out of your browser, pop it back open, and it should be back in the primary language that you typically use. But I have tried to stick to other languages that I'm a little more familiar with now, if and when I'm practicing that. Okay, so right under Translate, we're going to click here for our community resource directory. And I think this is going to be the most important part for all of you to learn a little bit more so that you can assist your patrons. And this will be how to search in our database online at your own convenience if you have access to the internet. So, as I mentioned, everything is a drop-down menu. So as long as you start typing, you will see alternative options with those letters. If you leave this section blank, which is the zip code or town, you will get resources throughout the entire state. So for some of you, maybe you are looking for resources throughout the state, and that's fine. You can leave it blank. For others, we want to make sure that we can be as specific as possible to get connected to the correct resources in a designated area. So I am going to click on here, and as you can see, Springfield comes up first. That's where I am based out of, so somehow it has saved itself. But if we were looking for a different town that started with S, we would start typing in, and as you can see, it's probably very, very tiny. I know it's tiny on my screen, but it is a drop-down menu. And you can continue typing in, and then it would give you what you were looking for. So I'm going to click on Springfield for right now, but obviously we can change that as needed. So there are 3 different ways that we can search. There's the category search, the keyword search, and the agency program name search. And I'm going to take you through all of these so that you get an idea of how they work. But as I mentioned, if you have a question as we're going along, just put it in the chat and Joy will let me know. So the first way is the category search. These are our most popular categories that we have folks looking for those types of resources. I do want to note that we added a couple of category tabs. So if you haven't been on our website for a while, in 2020, we added this COVID-19 tab, so that's specific to COVID-19 related resources. We also added down here a youth tab. I like to highlight this one because one of the things that I do as an outreach specialist is I regularly attend health and human service related community partner meetings. And a common challenge that I'm hearing is we don't have enough youth resources. And I have a pretty large coverage area, and that seems to continue to be a common theme. So I like to highlight that just so that you're aware that we do have a tab specifically designated for youth and those resources. I also highlight this because 211 really is for everyone. So a lot of times when I'm working with schools or youth groups or youth programs, if they have access to a phone or a texting option or to go online, they could look up resources themselves. It really is for everyone. You know, we hope that it will be age appropriate. It would be difficult to have a conversation potentially, you know, with a toddler or 5-year-old, but in theory, anyone could call Vermont 211. So just 2 tabs that I want to highlight. I'm going to click on the food tab though to show you, just because we are getting a lot of inquiries around food resources. Okay, so we clicked on food. As you can see, that's the main category, and then under that we have subcategories. As I said earlier, we do want to get as specific as possible so that we're making sure that whoever is looking for the resource is finding exactly what they need. I'm going to click on food pantries, and to make sure that whoever is searching is looking for exactly what they need, we do have definitions. So you'll see these really small question marks with purple background, and if you click on those, it will give you a definition of that service. So if you're not sure, make sure to click on that to get a better idea. I'm going to click on food pantries. And these are the results that we found for Springfield residents. So we have the Springfield Family Center, we have Fall Mountain Friendly Meals, 2 locations for that. So the Charlestown location and the Langdon. Now, what you'll see when you do any of the searches on our website is that it will give you basic information. It'll give you the agency name and address. It's letting us know the county and how far away it is from us, and a phone number, etc. Then underneath every single agency, you'll see the option to click here for details. And this is probably one of the most helpful parts of going to our website. Once you click for the details, it will give you the area served, a larger service description, eligibility. I know, again, one of the things that I hear from folks is they get discouraged about getting the runaround, about finding the resource that they need, saying, well, I went to this place and I wasn't eligible, or I didn't have the documents that I needed. And so we really want to try to avoid that. And so we have information on the eligibility. We have a documents required section so that people can research and make an informed decision before they go to utilize that resource. So there's also service hours, fees, services, and then you'll see right here that we have a last updated section. So we have staff at Vermont 211, our resource specialists, who are devoted to updating our database. So they do an annual update with every single agency in our database. This one just happened, so it was March 3rd, 2021. But you'll notice as we go down that every single agency has that. All of us, so this one will be coming up. All of us are aware that as soon as we print something, it's out of date. And so with our database, we try to stay as updated as possible, and therefore that's what our resource specialists focus on. I also want to encourage you that if you're on our website and you see something that is no longer correct or has changed, to please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. As I mentioned, there are outreach specialists throughout the state, so you could contact the person in that designated area. You're welcome to reach out to me. You can also email us, or you could call 211 and just let someone know that something needs to be updated. Also, every single agency in our database has a login, so they're able to put their username and password, and they can go in and make that update as well. So if it's before or after their annual update, there are still ways to get that information into the database. Now, one of the questions that I hear from folks when we're looking up information and referral is, why do we have things from other states? Why do we have agencies and services? So we add other agencies or services into our database if they serve Vermont residents. So we have the Fall Mountain Friendly Meals, and they serve Vermont residents, so they were able to be in our database, and they will come up as we're doing this search specifically for Springfield residents. So we may not see this agency if we were searching for another town, but in this case, this is what has come up. As I said, every single agency will have the details option, so you can see that below. They may vary a little bit. For instance, up here with the Family Center, we don't have a designated person listed, but down here for contact information, they did give us a specific name and let us know the title of that person. Okay. Couple more things I want to show you during the category search, and then we'll go through the other two ways to search. So once we found the resources that we were looking for, we do have a couple of other options to share those resources. So one of them is to print. You can print this out and you could hand it to a patron or perhaps mail it or just have that handy because you want to have something on paper. The other option is to text or email. So if you're anything like me, I do like having things on paper, but I am quick to lose it if I don't keep it in a designated spot. So it is helpful to have things electronically for me, and that could be through text or email. So if you were working with a patron and they were looking for food resources and they said, oh no, don't give me paper, I'll lose it, you could just click here to text or email. You would select which option you would like to send. So you could either send to a cell phone or send to email. And then once you click that option, you can enter the phone number or enter the email address, and it will send a link directly to this information that we've already pulled up. Okay, one last point on this page that I want to show you is our Map All feature. So as most, if not all of us on the call are aware of, transportation is a major issue for Vermonters because we do live in such a rural area with limited public transportation options. So a few years ago when we were updating our website, we added this Map All feature. And this really helps people make an informed decision of where they want to go for that resource, especially if transportation is a challenge. It is a Google map, so it isn't anything fancy that we made up, but we did insert it onto our website so that folks could utilize it. And it will show you where all of those resources are. So we were looking up for Springfield residents, but maybe the person searching knows that they have their doctor's appointment down in Charlestown. And so they say, oh, well, maybe I could go to the food shelf and my doctor's appointment, and that will make sense with transportation for that day. So the map all feature is something that you can do with any of the search results, and it's just a cool way for people to make that decision. Okay, I'm going to go back to our search. And as you saw, I just clicked start over and it brings us right back. And we are going to put in a different town. As you can see, I have typed in zip codes, so those have been saved. But we also have the option to type in the town if we don't know what the zip code is. So let's just do, we'll try ours and see what comes up. Okay, we'll switch to a different county. Let's do Randolph. And now we're going to do the keyword search. So the keyword search is if you have an idea of what you're looking for, but you're not 100% sure, and so it helps you start to narrow it down. We do give a couple of examples. So we have rent, support group, library, complaint, and we're gonna go with the first one and do rent. Housing has also been a major need for Vermonters, and we're getting a lot of calls around housing and rental assistance, so we'll go with that. As you can see, we typed in rent, and we have many options that have that keyword rent in it. We have rent payment assistance for at-risk families, rent payment assistance for COVID-19, and it goes on and on and on. For the sake of time, I'm just going to click on the first one, which is rent payment assistance, but you can get as specific as you would like, and I encourage you to read through the list just to see what options are available. All right, so we click search, and just like with the category search, we have several options that came up. Again, this was for rental assistance, and we had put the town of Randolph in. So the first one that comes up is Capstone Community Action. Again, it will give us the basic information. Housing, it lets us know that this is for housing services or housing assistance program. And then we'll click here and it will give us those details as it did with the other agencies we looked at before. So this one is much more detailed, and it probably just has to do with the topic and the service area and that agency. But again, it gives us the area served, a description, this one's a little bit longer, eligibility, application, documents required, so this one has a couple more, additional relevant notes, the hours, contact information, and other services. And their annual update won't be until August. You'll also note that we add other services at this location. So even though we were looking for rental assistance, we might be curious like, oh, what else does Capstone Community Action offer? And these are all of the different services that they offer, and these are the taxonomy terms that we have in our database for those. You'll also notice that with certain agencies, if they have other locations, those will be listed as well. So this Capstone has other locations, one in Bradford, Morrisville, and Barry. And again, just like with the previous agency, we can print, text, email, and we can map all as well. You can also save to your favorites if you're on your own browser. Okay, we're going to start over and I will show you the last option, which is agency program name search. So this is if you know the agency or program name and you just want that additional information. Maybe you're looking for the phone number, maybe you want to see the eligibility or documents required. And again, it's still a drop down. It's not like a Google search. So I'm going to use the example of the Upper Valley Haven. A lot of folks shorten it and just call it the Haven. As long as we were typing in that word, we'll see all of the different agencies that have Haven. We scroll through and we find Upper Valley Haven. That's what we were looking for. And we click search. Okay, so since we were looking for a specific agency, that is the one agency that will come up with the search. Again, basic information, and then it will list all of the different services that this agency has, since we weren't looking for a specific service. And then we can click here for details like all of the others, and it will list those for that specific service that we're looking for. Okay, so those are the three main ways to search when you're in our database. I also want to show you two other tabs that are on this page. So one of them is the top 25 searches for the current month. Vermont 211 serves as a barometer of needs for Vermonters. So if you're ever curious about that or what folks are searching for on our website, you can click right here for the top 25 searches. You'll notice that food pantries is at the top. These are service requests for January and February. We've seen a huge increase in tax prep assistance, getting a lot of calls. Sharps Disposals has been on here for quite some time, although it was over here for a while. Holiday gifts and toys, it's now over here in 21. It was over here as one of the top searches back around November and December time, but just something interesting to see. And then I want to show you all of the services in our database. Now, we won't go through all of them because it would take quite some time, but I do show you this just to let you know how many services we really do have in our database. Sometimes I hear from folks thinking like, oh, well, they'll only help with certain services, which is true, but Health and Human Services is quite broad, and you'll see that once we click on here. So one, it's a way for you to search for a specific service term. You can type it in here and do a search. But two, as you'll see when we start scrolling, this is just the A's, and there are quite a few services. So again, I encourage you, if and when you have time, to just explore our website, to try calling us or texting us so you know what that's like, and it helps you become more familiar with the broad services that are offered through our program. Okay, I'll stop scrolling. One, because it makes me a little nauseous, and two, because it is quite extensive, and I think you guys get the idea. Okay, so those are the three ways to search. We are going to go back to our home page, so I'm going to X out of this. As a reminder, we had clicked right here. It's this dark blue button to the left when you go to our homepage, vermont211.org. And I'm going to share with you these other two tabs, and then I want to get into a couple of other programs that we have that I think will be helpful for you and your patrons to know about. So one is the Read Our Newsletter. If you are not already signed up, I strongly encourage you to do so. You would just click on this tab and enter your email address. You can go back and look at previous newsletters. This comes out once a month. And again, it's giving you a statewide perspective related to Health and Human Services, and specifically what's going on with Vermont 211 and some of our partner agencies or programs. Again, please sign up for that so that you can just receive that regularly. It does have a lot of great information. Next, I want to go to our Vermont 211 statistical reports. So it's this orange tab to the left. And there are multiple different types of reports on here. So the first one is a Vermont 211 web usage reports. So you can, again, see how the public is using our search engines. And I'll just click on it to show you briefly what it looks like. We won't go through a full report. Okay, so as you can see, you are able to do your own little report here. You can enter the dates that you're looking for. You can see what the top services were, agencies, unmet needs, site visits, and if people entered the information, searches by gender or age. Again, it is anonymous, so people do not have to enter that or share that when they're calling. But just, again, a cool way for you to research what folks are searching about if you want to see for your specific town or coverage area. Next, we have the statewide contact summary report. So again, this gives you an idea of what folks are calling or texting about versus the web reports. So it's broken down by months. And then over here, it will let you know what services are provided. These reports on our website are broken down by county, but if someone was interested in a report specific to their town or a few towns, we are able to do that. You can just reach out to your outreach specialist and make that request, and we are happy to run that report for you, or someone within our agency is able to run that report for you. We have a lot of folks reach out to us when they're writing grants, or if they're trying to assess the needs of a community, and we are happy to do that, and it can be broken down in multiple ways, which I'll share about once we click on the different counties. So I am going to click on, we'll just go with the first one, Addison County. Okay, so again, it's broken down by the different months. And then over here, because we did pick a specific county, it's broken down by the needs. So the category right here is basic needs, and then we have a couple of those subcategories underneath. You'll notice that housing and shelter tends to be quite high. Food has been up there, and then normally transportation often comes in third, but with the pandemic, we noticed an increase in folks searching for utility resources, so that number has bumped up in most counties. And I'll scroll down just for you to see some of the other categories and subcategories. But again, this is available on our website anytime that you have access to it, and so you can look at these reports on your own time. You will see that we have these major categories and then some of the subcategories. We can break these down even further if there's a specific category that you want to learn more about and to see if folks are calling for. So for instance, with the food category, I sit on multiple hunger councils through Hunger Free Vermont, and so they often ask for a report specific around food needs. So I would choose the food category and the subcategories, but then we could break that down even further to see, were people getting referred to food pantries? Were they getting referred to farmers to families? We can get quite specific within our database. So do not hesitate to reach out if you're just curious or if you need the data for a specific purpose. So we had clicked on statewide call summary report. If you wanted to go directly to statistical reports by county, you could just click here. It will show you, just like that Addison report, it will give you that document. And then the last type of report we have are the Vermont 211 after hours emergency housing reports. So we provide the after hours emergency housing for economic services. So from 4:30 p.m. to 7:45 a.m., we do take those calls. We follow economic services protocols. So if you have folks that are looking for that emergency housing and they're curious about it, we will encourage them and direct them to economic services during regular business hours. And then we take all of the calls after hours. I have heard people say that they've had people wait until 4:30 p.m. to then call 211, thinking that they can kind of bypass economic services, and that is not how it works. So if someone has been told that they can no longer go to one of the emergency housing hotels, or if there's certain tasks that they need to do before they can get into that type of housing, they will have to go through economic services to have that completed, and we will follow all of economic services protocols and guidelines around that. So just to make sure we're clear about that, because we do have folks that try to wait and bypass it. Okay, so that is our homepage. It's a lot of information, but hopefully it was helpful in guiding you through and that you feel a little more confident in doing a search. We do have all of these other tabs at the top. And so again, on your own time, I encourage you to check those out and explore our page. But really, I think our homepage is what will be the most helpful for you in the work that you're doing and when you're trying to assist patrons and help them get connected to other health and human service resources in the area or the state. Okay. So now I want to go into another program that we have, which is called Help Me Grow. So as I said earlier, when you call 211, there are several options that you have to get connected to resources. We talked about option 2, which is the COVID support line. We also have option 6, which is to help me grow. So help me grow is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, it's 211 option 6. And they are child development specialists. So they work with families who are expecting or have children up to age 8. So again, if folks are calling 211 and our contact center specialists, they are trained to be listening for cues and to be asking questions to make sure that we can get them connected to the exact resources that they need. And so one of those is listening to see if this caller has children and can they be connected to the Help Me Grow team. So someone might be calling because they're a first-time parent or they're nervous or embarrassed about asking a question about their child, with their primary care physician or their child care provider. And so this is a great way for them to call someone that they don't know who is an expert in this field and can answer that question. And one of the great things about our partnership with Help Me Grow is they also have access to our 211 database. So all of those resources that we just saw doing the web search, they have access to. So they might be answering a question about the child or the child's development, but again, they are also trained to be listening for those cues or asking the questions to see what other resources that caller may need. And so they can answer that question about the child and the child's development, and they can make those referrals to food resources or housing or additional education, all of those categories and services that we saw earlier. Help Me Grow also has a texting option. So you can text HMG VT to 898-211. And so that's another great option for someone who maybe doesn't want to talk on the phone or wants to have it recorded on their phone through a text message. The other great option that the Help Me Grow website has is a refer option. So right up here at the top, it's the first tab. And a provider can refer a child or family. So this is the referral form. You would just fill out the basic information about the child and guardian, and then also the referral information. So if you were making the referral, you would put your name, your organization, and your relationship to the child. You do have to have parents' permission for this, parent or legal guardian. So there's an option down here. You check off that box. Once you do that, you can then submit the referral. When you submit the referral, it will go to the Help Me Grow child development specialist in that office, and then they will make contact with that family. So again, it's really important that if you're making the referral that you make sure that you have permission, and then when you're clicking this, you're confirming that you have that permission. So again, a great resource for families, and we do have materials for them as well. Oh, and you have the email option. Okay, the next program I want to go into is FamilyWise. So FamilyWise is a nationwide program. Again, it's connected to United Ways. And what it is it's a program for folks who do not have insurance or if their prescription is not covered by their insurance. So the FamilyWise card can give them a discount up to 75% off their prescription. The average is around 35 to 40% off, but still it can help. And what you can do is you can go to this website. It's familywise.org, and you would enter in your prescription and your zip code and then search for savings. So I'm just going to use the examples that they have here. The first one is Lipitor. Just like our 211 website, this is also a drop-down menu, so we can start typing in. Oh, although it's not doing it right now. Okay, maybe it won't. Oh, there we go. All right, so you start typing in and you can see the different options. We'll go with this one, and then we can put in a zip code. As you can see, I've searched other zip codes. We'll just do this first one. And we click search savings. So What it will do is it will list the different prices at different pharmacies for that zip code area. You do have the option of changing the prescription and then the amount up here if you'd like. And then if you decide, okay, this is the pharmacy that I want to go with, you would just click here for Get Free Card. And then it will give you this card. You can text, email, or print it. You show this card at the pharmacy, and then you would be able to get that price. So again, it's a great way for people to compare the price and make an informed decision. For instance, it's showing that this is the lowest price pharmacy, but maybe the person lives a little bit closer to Walmart, or that's where they do their grocery shopping, so they would prefer to go there. They do have a really nice app that you can do the same type of search on, which is really wonderful. But again, a program that a lot of folks aren't aware of that we want to make sure they know about. If folks do not have the technical equipment to get the card online, we do have paper rack cards. And so if anyone needs those, again, just reach out to your outreach specialist and we're happy to make that delivery to you if we have the cards. We do not always have those in full stock, but we try to. So don't hesitate to reach out about that. All right, the last program that I want to talk about is CARE. So this is part of E911. The website is e911.vermont.gov/care. And CARE stands for the Citizens Assistance Registry for Emergencies. So this is for anyone who has a special circumstance in an emergency. And we're going to go down and open up the form so we can talk about what those special circumstances are. So the form can be found down here at the bottom. The person will fill out basic information, and then special circumstances could be that they're on oxygen, or they're in a wheelchair, they're hard of hearing, they have a service animal. There's a whole list here. And so the person would fill out this information. They would return it to Vermont 211. So we have our address or our email address right here. And then we are able to enter that information into the E911 database. And then first responders would have that information as they were going into an emergency. Now, this is not a VIP list. It does not ensure that in an emergency that this person will be the first person attended to or evacuated. It just allows the first responders to have this information to make informed decisions and planning in an emergency. So really great resource. Strongly encourage folks to fill it out, either if you or someone you know has one of these special circumstances in an emergency, and then we can have that information on file. We occasionally have paper copies of this, but they are really pushing for the online version. So again, if you just go to that website that I shared earlier, e911.vermont.gov/care, you can find this form. You can print it out if that's what works for you. And then, like I said, just making sure to get it back to Vermont 211. Okay, I am going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully. There we go. Okay, have I successfully stopped sharing my screen, Joy?
Yes, you have.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we're back. I do not mind if people want to ask questions or have comments right now. We do have the time, whether it's in the chat. Joy, I'm not sure if you want people to keep their cameras and microphones off or if they're able to turn those on now.
That would be fine. So if you want to turn on your mic and ask a question, you can just hover over the mic and click on it. There's also a little hand raising icon that you can click on if you want to do that. But since we're such a small group, I think we don't need to worry about everyone talking at once. And feel free to turn on your camera too if you want to ask a question. And it's also fine to use the chat. I know I would be curious if any of you librarians that are here have worked with any patrons, help patrons with this, and had any anecdotes or experience with that. Any questions or comments? This is a great opportunity to have Carmina with us.
Carmina.
Hi, Carrie. It's so good to see you.
Thank you for this presentation. It's so delicious. It's so much information, and I have not used 211 before as a librarian, but I've checked it out as a citizen. But I learned even more. So thank you. You had mentioned in the presentation of someone in Springfield looking up a resource for food and going to Charlestown, New Hampshire. Is that an option? I thought because of the residency requirements that might not be available, but is it?
So it is for that specific resource. So when you're doing the search, whatever town that you put in, those are the residents that you're looking for. So if you put in Chester and you had a search result and it had a program in New Hampshire, it means that we have vetted it out and they have said that they will serve Chester residents or Vermont residents. So sometimes you will see, New Hampshire programs, Massachusetts, New York, a lot of our border states might come up when you're doing a search, and it does mean that they serve those residents. I always encourage people to call ahead just in case something's changed, because we are quite up to date in our database, but just to make sure. But typically, yes, if that comes up, it means that they serve residents of that town that you're searching for. Yeah, no problem. Anyone else have questions or comments? Because I do have a couple more things that I'm going to say, but I've talked an awful lot, so I want to give folks the opportunity to speak up.
I have a question. This is Joy. Do you have advice, particularly during when the library buildings are shut down right now or open in limited ways? Just advice about how librarians might connect their community members to 211 during this sort of unusual time, which hopefully is coming to an end soon, but is still in a not typical library interaction way at this point.
Totally. And yes, that was the last part that I was going to share with all of you. So that's a wonderful segue, Joy. So yes, libraries have done this differently on how to get people connected to Vermont 211 or to share resources. The primary way that I've worked with librarians has been making sure that they have an ample amount of our materials. So whether it's our RAC card, the family-wise cards, Help Me Grow materials, making sure that every single library has those so that if you're not having or if you can't have patrons physically coming in, most libraries seem to have a bag or a drop-off section, and so they can just slip a 211 card in there and make it available. The other option that librarians have been having is making sure that there's a link to 211 on their website. So whether it's your homepage or if you have a resource page on your website, we can get you the logo and the links and just having those readily available so that you can refer people that way. Another option is I have given presentations for librarians and their staff like this, and they've also made it a program. So if you're offering virtual programs or if you have physical programs with a limited amount of people, I am happy to give that presentation or another outreach specialist in your area so that your patrons can kind of have a presentation just like this, so that they know how to access those materials. So I would say those are the three major ways that libraries have been getting involved. We also have a 211 and a Help Me Grow banner. They're vertical, so they're very easy to use, which as a very short person, I appreciate that. So even though they're vertical, they're very easy. And so if you have an area where those could be propped up and people can see and read that, we're happy to deliver those and let you have those for a period of time. Some organizations have them for a month. Some just have them for a week or two, but it's another way to have a large visual so that if you forget or you don't, you aren't able to put a rack card in, every time someone's coming to pick up materials, they can read those posters on their own time. So those are some of the ways that we've been able to get creative with libraries. As I said at the beginning, you know, you are key to our communities. The work that you do is quite incredible, and you really are a hub for everyone. And so we want to make sure that we can equip you with the resources and tools that you need to help the helpers. So if folks have other ideas, collaborations, very, very open to that and would be happy to work with folks on that. Another way that you can get involved is at those community partner meetings surrounding health and human services. I strongly encourage librarians to attend if they can. Again, you're a major hub, and I don't think everyone always thinks of how we can utilize you, or they're not aware of the great work that you're doing. So if you're able to attend some of those meetings or you're interested, it's a great way to network, to learn more, and to help get your patrons connected to additional resources. So yeah, I think those are the main ways that people can get connected or that we've been working with libraries. Any other questions or comments?
It sounds like those banners might be something that, depending on how the library was laid out, they might be able to be visible even when the library isn't open. So you could like put it in front of a window.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know every library is so different. I've been to every single library in Orange, Windsor, and Windham counties, and so it's a wide range, but we can get creative.
Any other questions or comments? And again, there was a lot in this, but we did record it, so we'll have it up on our website and eventually on our new platform, Niche Academy.
Great. Yeah, and if people, it was a lot of information, so oftentimes folks will think of questions after the fact, and that's totally fine. Again, I encourage you to reach out to me or to the outreach specialist in your area. I will be sending a list to Joy, so hopefully that can get out to everyone so that you'll know who to connect with if it isn't me. And lastly, I just want to thank you, one, again, for the hard work that you do and for what you provide to our communities, and two, for being a 211 ambassador. We greatly appreciate your help in getting folks connected 24/7 to resources. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been great. I did put a link to an evaluation in the chat. So if you could do that, it's brief. It's our usual project outcome ones, but that really helps us with evaluation and reporting. So thank you again, Carmina. Learned so much, and thank you so much for helping us do this important work.
Great. Thank you.